Good morning, friends. Welcome to Work From Home 2021 once again, guys. And I'm here with you to talk about firmware security, something that we don't think about. Okay, so before that, let me introduce myself. I'm Clement, the Chief Executive Officer for Cybertronium. We were formerly called as Kapagam Education Services India and Berhad. Right? With the 20 years plus experience in IT and cybersecurity, those are all the awards given by multiple governments and in the region and across. So I've been actually listed twice in a row in 2021 and 2020 as the top 20 cybersecurity influencers and professional around the globe. All right, so you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn and let's grow together. Okay, that's off. Let's get going on the firmware, guys. Before we get started, right? So when I talk to a lot of people, they always have like, what is a firmware? What is a UEFI? Secure boot. So a lot of people might have confusion on the basics. So what I thought was, let me start with basics. Okay, step zero, let's learn certain terminologies that you're going to keep on hearing throughout the next 35 to 45 minutes. Okay, so let's understand some basics, right? So these are the few things that I'm going to actually cover with you. So by now, most of us know the threats of malware, ransomware, DDoS, and man-in-the-middle attacks. But one often overlooked weakness is firmware. Firmware attacks represent a risk to essentially every electrical device, from computers to coffee machines, from air-conditioned units to potentially autonomous vehicles. In a year of historic challenges, 2020 saw firmware and hardware issues become one of the most active areas of enterprise security. APT and ransomware threat actors targeted enterprise VPNs because everyone worked from home. The widespread boot hole vulnerability put virtually all Windows and Linux devices at risk for boot kits. And some of the most popular malware and ransomware added firmware-specific capabilities, including the notorious LoJax and TrickBot. So now let us delve into some basics before I ring the bell louder on the rising challenge of firmware attacks. So let's start, okay? What is a firmware? Firmware is essentially the foundational code within a device. Independent of the operating system, firmware is the first code to run and can modify or subvert the operating system and applications that run at a higher levels. This makes firmware a single point of failure that, when compromised, can allow attackers to evade security controls at those higher layers and silently persist on a device. Do you understand the problem here, guys? If a firmware is compromised, your antivirus has no choice. Your antivirus has no view about what's happening on your firmware level. Maybe your EDR also don't know what's happening on the firmware level. Right? So this is true across critical components like your Unified Extensible Firmware Interface, in short, UEFI, or your server baseboard management controllers. Like every server might have their own respective baseboard management controllers, as well as peripheral devices, trusted platform modules, and storage devices. None of them will have any access to it, because when that guy is compromised, a firmware is compromised, all the security layers that you are putting in place will not work. Now, how many firmwares do I have? The average laptop will run dozens of firmware on boot up. An average server might run around 20 or more minimum. Each of these firmware components can run millions of lines of codes and each is developed by a myriad of vendors in a complex supply chain. We'll talk about the supply chain effort later, right? But it's a complex supply chain. Multiple components come from multiple people. The number of devices alone can be overwhelming, my dear friends. When you begin to consider every server, switch, laptop, smartphone, etc., that connects to the network. But the scope grows exponentially. The vast majority of devices also rely on an array of components and subcomponents, each of which also has its own firmware and supply chain. So you see the integrated effect? The result, a very broad and deep attack surface into which organizations have very little, if any, visibility. So you understand the firmware? It's the base that runs everything. OS runs on top of the firmware, and your defenses run on top of the OS. So anything that happens on the firmware level, it's totally oblivious, no visibility on the higher layers. Hence, the attackers are putting in all kind of malwares on the firmware level, so they can retain persistence without even anyone knowing about it. We have seen tons of attacks. 2021 saw, or rather 2020 saw a lot of attacks that's continuing in 2021. We are going to dwell deeper on it as we go on. But let's go to the second thing on our basics, UEFI. What is this UEFI? UEFI has become a prominent technology that is embedded within designated chips on modern day computer systems. A UEFI replaces the legacy BIOS. It is typically used to facilitate the machine's boot sequence and load the operating system while using a feature-rich environment to do so. At the same time, it has become the target of threat actors to carry out exceptionally persistent attacks. One such attack has been used widely, where a compromised UEF firmware image that contained a malicious implant, and this implant served as a means to deploy additional malware on the victim computers. So the guy goes in, and then he actually starts pulling out additional payloads and malwares from the command and control server. This attack is widely known as Mosaic Regressor, found to be used by Chinese threat actors. Right? I'll show you a similar demo later today. So we understood what is a firmware and what is a UEFI, where the problems are. So let me actually summarize them as threats to the boot process. So we know what is a firmware, we know what is a UEFI. Now, what are the threats to the boot process? The boot process is one of the most fundamentally important aspects of security for any device. It relies on a variety of firmware that controls how a device's various components and peripherals are initialized and ultimately coordinates the loading of the operating system itself. In general, the earlier the code is loaded, the more privileged it is. See, this is a very important point. The earlier the code is loaded, the more privileged it is. If this process is compromised, attackers can control how the operating system is loaded and subvert all higher layer security controls. And they can load whatever they want to load in that sequence. Research has identified ransomware in the wild using malicious UEFI bootloaders as a way to take control of your machine at the time of boot. So you don't see anything. You just see a blue screen which says that, yeah, all your data is encrypted, pay me money. Your OS did not even load up. Your boot is taken over. The boot sequence have been taken over. Previously, threat actors used malware tampering with legacy OS bootloaders. But now they are meddling with the UEFI. They are even meddling with a secure boot. Secure boot? What is it? What is UEFI secure boot? A UEFI secure boot was originally developed by the UEFI forum as a way to protect the boot process from attacks. Right? It is not something new, guys. We always create something to protect, and that gets hacked. For example, we had problem with HTTP, then we went to HTTPS. In the HTTPS, we had SSL version 1, problem, version 2, problem, SSL version 3, problem, TLS 1.0, problem, 1.1 hanging out there, 1.2. So something that we put in place to protect might start having issues. So it's normal. Okay. So UEFI was originally developed to make the boot process free from attacks. So UEFI secure boot is a standard. It's a standard for all PCs and servers. The goal is to prevent malicious codes from being introduced into the boot process by cryptographically checking each piece of firmware and software before it is run. Any code not recognized as valid is not executed in the boot process. So this is a secure boot that you will also find in all the Windows 10 and all the Windows servers and all the Linux distributions too, right? So in Linux, we call that as GRUB, Grand Unified Boot Loader. So in almost every modern Linux distribution, GRUB2 is the bootloader that loads and transfers control to the operating system. So with that, we have understood the basics of the firmware ecosystem, right? What is a firmware? What is a UEFI? What's the threat to the boot process? What did we put in place to handle that threat? And from a Windows perspective, as well as on the Linux ecosystem with the GRUB2. So that would have set up a stage for us to go beyond now to understand what kind of attacks are happening on our firmwares, who are all the threat actors who are working on it, and how can we handle it, okay? Come on, guys, let me take you in. All right, now, so as you already know, firmware is the foundation of the enterprise tech stack. Everything runs on top of it. Your switches, your routers, your servers, your endpoints, everything runs on firmware, right? So with the attacks that is happening, Gartner came out and said, firmware is the next endpoint battleground. Because earlier, the memory was the endpoint battleground. When in older generation, if you call me generation 1, your hard disk was the battleground. Generation 2, your memory was the battleground. Generation 3, firmware is our new battleground on the endpoint for advanced adversaries. And we are seeing that attack across. I have picked up a few things for you over here, right? Ransomware is attacking UEFI firmware. Suspected Chinese hackers exploited Pulse Secure VPNs. SonicWall warns of imminent ransomware attacks targeting firmware flaw. This is July, just last month. Security vulnerabilities alert and firmware patches in Zyxel networks. So everyone are actually seeing the attacks happening. The entire industry of firmware patches, firmware security has come up in forefront, which is what Gartner is saying. Guys, it's high time. The battle has started. Get prepared. All right? So, just to give you the summary of all those components in the firmware. The largest blind spot, guys. All right? So, every component has its own vulnerabilities. Every component has its own vulnerabilities. These are all the known vulnerabilities in every component. Well, the respective firmware players would have actually given you patches. But are your devices been patched? When did you last check that? Are you even looking at it? Is your security operations center even looking at the firmware level? So we have a total darkness in that area, right? You look at the number of vulnerabilities. These are documented ones. How about the 0 days? The unknowns, right? Now, here we go, next, right? So firmware is the blindest spot, and these are all the threat actors. These are all the threat actors that are exploiting firmware. APT 41, right? These all are campaigns and threat actors, what you are seeing. Guys, this arena is filling up. A lot of firmware exploits are being sold in dark web. And it's not very expensive, guys. A couple of $1,000, you can get one. So the ecosystem is getting populated. It had only LoJax, it had TrickBoot, it had only few earlier. But within a year, in 2020 plus alone, we got that filled up. And 2021 has come up with few more additional stuffs. So the malwares and the attacks based on firmware is growing every second, right? Okay, so be aware of it. Now, let's move on next. What are the important firmware threats and vulnerabilities that affected the industry and the enterprises throughout the world in 2020? The first one is VPN. This is what I actually told you earlier in the first slide. The attackers were targeting VPN devices because we were working from home. When we were in the office, we had multiple layers of defenses to protect us. Something to inspect, something to detect. But when you're back home, we are totally on the VPN trunk. And when devices get compromised on the firmware level, the malwares can move through VPNs. That's one way. But if the VPNs themselves get compromised, gone, right? So VPN vulnerabilities have become a top target of state-sponsored actors, including groups from China, Russia, Iran, and all the ransomware campaigns like Revil, Netwalker, Maze. So all of them started to add capabilities of firmware attacks into their ransomware, right? So VPN attacks skyrocketed in 2020. The next one is our TrickBot, a very notorious malware. It's a highly modular Trojan that is particularly notable for its ability to gain administrator privileges. It has Mimikatz embedded in it for dumping all the usernames and passwords and hashes, right? It has a lot of capabilities. And it also has a lateral movement capability, both your east-west and north-south, horizontal and vertical lateral movement. And it can deliver additional malware payloads. So TrickBot itself is a highly notorious modular Trojan. And they went ahead and added a component, a module in 2020 called as TrickBoot. This particular module checks devices for firmware vulnerabilities that can allow attackers to read, write, or erase the device's UEFI or BIOS firmware. So I can start implanting malwares inside, the malware code inside the UEFI firmware codes. Or I can remove the firmware and put an old firmware inside. See, when you are signing firmwares, to confirm that the firmwares belong to a company that has issued it. Okay? You can cryptographically sign it, the secure boot, right? But you had a vulnerability in your earlier version, and then you gave a patch. The earlier version is also signed cryptographically with your signature, correct? So even if you have patched to the new version, if an attacker comes in and he puts the old version of the firmware inside, will it still recognize? It will still recognize. Cryptographically, will it match? It will match. So if I can go into the firmware and I can manipulate these load sequences, I can load the old firmware version of the supplier, which is cryptographically signed by the supplier, and then exploit that vulnerability. Does it make sense? Right? So the secure boot can be questioned. Right? Attacks, right? I'll show you a demo of compromising a firmware with the secure boot enabled on a fully patched Windows 10 machine coming up. Okay? Right. So you now understood how the trick boot works on the trick bot malware. Pretty tricky, guys, right? I was actually going for a tongue twister with the trick boots and the trick bots when I was actually preparing the slide deck for you guys. Okay, now here we go. The newly discovered UEFI implants are in the wild. One such guy is Mosaic Regressor. This guy is notorious for maintaining persistence in target organizations, evading security controls that you have put in place, including your EDRs, XDRs, right? Your antivirus stands no chance there at all, right? And deliver additional malicious payloads. And in many cases, the threats were there for many years, and we had not picked up in the past at all because we were never looking into the firmware arena. Now, the next one is pervasive boot hole vulnerability. Our partners, Eclypsium, they discovered a vulnerability known as boot hole, affecting most Windows and Linux-based systems. This vulnerability allows attacker to gain arbitrary code execution during the boot process, even when secure boot is enabled. Almost all the signed versions of GRUB2 are vulnerable, meaning virtually all your Linux distribution is affected. Were you aware of that? Have you patched it? Right? So, friends, something very important is happening around us. There is a new generation of attacks are coming up. So let's get ready. Let's put defenses, let's put the right softwares and the solutions and technologies that can manage the firmware for us. We are going to talk about it as we go on, right? Let's move on. So I spoke about the supply chain, the complexity of the supply chain. There are tens and tens, sometimes hundreds of firmwares in a device, each one coming from different vendors, sub-vendors, millions of lines of code. Devices can be modified or compromised in the supply chain even before the eventual owner ever receives the item, receives the laptop or the switches or routers. It can be already manipulated. It can be already compromised before it reaches our hand because there are too many people in the supply chain. The recent Breaking Trust project provided a detailed analysis of 115 supply chain attacks and disclosures over the past 10 years. Not only in 2020, past 10 years. Backdoors have been found in enterprise firewalls, Huawei telecom gears, and even IP security cameras that we might have deployed in our financial institutions, in our government agencies, in our corporate offices. So all of them have been found to have implants even before they were delivered to in our hands, right? So the supply chain kind of an attack is happening across. We have heard about SolarWinds, right? Last year. From a software engineer who was compromised on his computer, codes, malware lines of codes getting into the into the SolarWinds patch, module and how that patch module was actually pushed to thousands and thousands of customers who got infected through an official patch that was delivered. And from that infection, the malware started downloading additional payloads, taking over thousands and thousands of customers of SolarWinds, including Microsoft, and a whole lot of big guys on it. Right? Supply chain attacks happen all over. What you're seeing now is a firmware-based supply chain attacks. And there is one more that came up very recently in 2021, which involves Dell computers. BIOS disconnect. Right? Why is it BIOS disconnect? Because they have a service, a module called as BIOS Connect. Okay, let me explain this to you. So Eclypsium, again, our partners Eclypsium, discovered multiple vulnerabilities affecting 129 Dell models via Dell Remote OS recovery and firmware update capabilities. This happened in June 2021. Eclypsium worked with Dell from February onwards all the way till June to confirm those vulnerabilities. And hence, when this information came out as a disclosure, Dell had already come up with the patches, and they have given the patches as of on 24th June 2021. The patches are all available for all Dell machines. 129 Dell models, predominantly everything that you have now as a Dell machine, that needs a patch. The chain of vulnerabilities, it wasn't one, there was chain of vulnerabilities. The TLS certificate had some issues. The connectivity to the Dell.com in the back had some issues, which allowed the man-in-the-middle attacks to come in. So it was multiple vulnerabilities in there with the CVSS score of 8.3. And it allows privileged network adversary to impersonate Dell.com and gain arbitrary code execution at the BIOS level or a UEFI level of the affected device. And then an adversary can control the device's boot process and subvert the operating system and a higher layer security controls. Right? It affects 129 Dell models. Now, what was the core of this vulnerability is Dell Support Assist. Those who are using Dell machines, including this computer that I'm actually talking to you, right? We all know Dell Support Assist is an overarching support solution that comes pre-installed on the machine. It covers a range of support functions such as your monitoring of hardware, software problems, and assisting with troubleshooting. If something goes haywire on your Dell machines, Support Assist comes up. You have that as an icon in your computer, in your Dell machines. The Support Assist has a feature called as BIOS Connect. Right? It allows users to perform a remote OS recovery or update the firmware on the device. The problem was on this particular feature called as BIOS Connect. BIOS Connect enables a system's BIOS to reach out to Dell's backend services over the internet. So something is connecting from the firmware all the way to internet without we knowing, okay? But for good reasons, obviously, to update and patch their firmwares. And then coordinate your update or your recovery process. So this is what this BIOS Connect does. So you look at the first picture on the top. So this is the normal behavior. So your BIOS Connect connects via the normal HTTPS TLS communications in the back to Dell.com to pull all the latest updates or recovery stuff back to the device and bring the device back if it's having a problem or update its firmware. Now the problem is because of multiple vulnerabilities on the BIOS Connect, one being the certificate issues on the connection that is going out, someone in the middle, a machine in the middle, okay, or man in the middle. The guy must be on the same network. For this to happen, the guy must be on the same network. So that's the only solace. That's the only good news that you can have. The hacker must be on the same network. For him or her to be the machine in the middle or man in the middle to intercept that connection, the request that is going out, and change that certificate to accept the attacker certificate. And then attacker can actually send in content as patches and upgrades to the firmware with an implant and take over the Dell machine. This is what is called as BIOS disconnect. Right out of the oven, just 1 month back in June, when the patches came out on 24th June 2021. Dell was pretty quick in fixing it, and they send out the patches. So if you are using Dell machines, server, laptops, anything, any Dell related stuffs, please go and check out the BIOS disconnect advisory from Dell. You will be able to find what are all the different models that are affected, and please update your firmware patches. Right. So from all that what you have seen, let me come back to where I started. Firmware is the new battleground. Whether it is your laptops, your endpoint PCs, servers, network devices, or connected devices, all of them runs on millions and millions of lines of code on a level that's below your operating system, where our classic, traditional, and advanced security technologies may not be even looking at it, right? There are some numbers that are startling that has come out in the recent studies. According to Gartner, by 2022, 70% of organizations that do not have a firmware upgrade plan in place will be breached due to a firmware vulnerability. It's not Clement's words, it's from Gartner, right? Most of the enterprises, governments, financial institutions, they hold Gartner as a Bible for every technology update. And they are the ones who are now telling that by 2022, 70% of organizations might have been compromised already. It's 2021 now, guys. We still have time. Microsoft did its part. Microsoft did a study as part of Security Signals 2020. And they found out a few things. 83% of all businesses that Microsoft did the research on have experienced a firmware attack in the past 2 years. And there are people who have started talking about it. Like what you have actually heard from our ex-FBI director, there are only 2 types of companies, those that have been already hacked and then they know about it, and there are those that have been hacked and they don't know about it. That means everyone is compromised. The famous quote that most of the security guys use. There a similar quote has come from Mr. Azim, a partner at ISG and a former managing VP of Gartner. There are 2 types of companies, those who have experienced a firmware attack and those who have experienced a firmware attack but don't know it. So a firmware attack is imminent. It's already happening. Most of us might have already been compromised and we do not know about it. So we need a technology to figure out. We need a way to protect our firmwares. We need to have our incident response plans in place for firmware attacks. So firmware is a new battleground. So the actions that we need to take today, we need to establish a basic firmware inventory and visibility. Not only the machine level inventory, firmware inventory. Establish an organizational policy around firmware updates. Integrate your firmware vulnerability scans into your risk management process. Don't only scan your operating system. Don't only scan your applications. Your vulnerability scans should also incorporate firmwares. Integrate firmware detection and response tools into your endpoint and your infrastructure security or resilience technologies and processes. And integrate firmware forensics into your incident response process. Make firmware risk a priority, friends, in equipment purchasing and deployment decisions. So a takeaway from my session to you is this: a simple action card. You need to get each and every one of it to put in place. If you do not know how to get this done, reach out to us at Cybertronium and we will help you through each and every step of this to start to find what kind of firmware vulnerabilities that you already have. Is there any attack that is already running without you knowing? What is your impact and how do you move from your current state to your secure state as a more resilient organization? We can help you through that process, right? So before I say ciao for you for this particular session, I want to show you a demo. I'm going to show you a demo of a firmware malware that is embedded inside a Microsoft Word document. And you open up a Word document via a phishing email or a business email compromise. You receive an email as if it is coming from your colleague or your contractors or your vendors. You open it and it infects the firmware. And it connects to a remote access tool or a remote access Trojan or RAT. Most of us would have known the remote access or command and control. So I'm going to actually do this for you, right? There are me over here talking to you, and I have another computer because I don't want to infect this computer where I'm showing you the demo. So I have another computer that has this dangerous malware that we picked up, we plucked it from the wild, right? So we have this malware ready on a Word document that I'm going to open it up. So it's on another computer. So I'm going to connect that computer and I'm going to share it to you. So you'll be able to see that computer. I'll quickly run through the defenses in that computer, okay? So you can see the secure boot is on. You can see the virus and threat protection is on. All defenses that you might already have on your machines is there on that machine. Fully patched Windows machine. All cleaned, right? Runs an EDR, Windows Defender ATP, okay? On it, on an EDR perspective, okay? Right, so everything is running on this machine here. So I'm going to show you all of that and I'm going to open up the Word document. Then I want you to introduce to my colleague, my team member, Mr. Ganesh, who's going to actually show the remote access Trojan from a hacker perspective as a command and control server. So once I show my machine, the victim machine, and I open up the Word document, I will transfer it to Mr. Ganesh, who will then share his screen and show what has happened on his command and control side and how much of access that he has on this computer where I opened a Word document. Are we clear, guys? Are we ready for it? Okay, so here we go. Let me actually take my system off. From here, I'll stop my screen share. We come back here, right? So I'm going to actually share my screen from the victim machine. I'm going to share my screen from the victim machine, okay? So let me go and share my screen on the victim machine. Share screen of my victim machine. So you are now seeing my victim machine, right? So this is my victim machine. Let me quickly open up the virus and threat protection on that machine. Virus and threat protection. So if you look at the virus and threat protections right on your screen, it has picked up current threats, right? It has picked up some host file hijack that has happened on 30th July, right? So it has picked up things across. So it is a working and all of this is pretty much on. Your virus threat protection, your ransomware protection, so everything is pretty much on. Your account protection is all on. Your firewall and network protection is all on. So we have not disabled anything that has actually comes out of the box. Happen and browser control, isolated browsing, exploit protection, everything is on. your device security, your core isolation, your security processor, the trusted platform module that I spoke to you earlier in the session, secure boot, everything is on. Okay? So, right, so all the securities that you can ask for is pretty much on. Now, let me start the process. So this is a simple Word document, right? So I've not made it look so genuine with a real report inside, with a real, invoice inside kind of a stuff. I've just actually opened up a normal firmware document, right? So I just open up a firmware document, just a normal invoice. This can be anything. This can be anything, right? This can be anything inside here as a content. Since it's a demo, I've just made it simple, right? It can be anything. So as I have actually opened this, there is a malware that runs in that Word document. So I've opened it and I've closed it. So nothing has happened on my screen here. The screen looks perfectly clean. See, there are few things that can happen. We can open a malware and the malware can actually be flushed into your systems and it can take over your system. Sometimes it might go for a reboot. Sometimes it might not. The advanced malwares on a firmware level, like the one that we are using, doesn't ask for a reboot at all. It just goes and attaches itself. So now I want to actually transfer the control. So let me stop sharing on the victim machine. So the victim machine is right in front, or rather to the left of me here, okay, right? So I'm going to stop the sharing here and I'm going to pass the control to Ganesh. Ganesh, you're on, buddy. Show us the command and control center.
Yes, let's get down to it.
So what you're seeing now is the command and control center that's happening on Ganesh's side. Ganesh, does he look like a hacker for you? Okay, right, go ahead.
Right, so very simple. Let's turn on the PC rack. Wait for Clement system to pop up. There you go. Malaysia, IP port, hardware ID, OS. It's very generic information, not to worry. The scary part comes here. You see his screen now. Same screen you saw earlier.
Oh, so is it real time? If I open up,
definitely. Please move your cursor.
Yeah, if I actually move the cursor, it actually moves. Okay, let me actually go and open up something, okay? Let me open up a notepad and say, hi, everyone. Huh. That's a real-time flow that's happening on it. Let everyone see the hi, okay?
Yeah.
There you go. Wonderful. Back to you, Ganesh.
All right. Next, we can go for websites. There you go.
A Chinese malware taking you to a Chinese website. Well, that's Greek and Latin for me. I know nothing about it. I don't have a Chinese girlfriend, so sorry, I can't. The only thing that is this, I have a Chinese vaccine. Maybe I can start reading Chinese later. Okay, anyway, go ahead.
Right. And then we have the scary one.
Oh my God.
There you go.
I feel now my privacy is gone, man. That's a real feed that's coming up. Why am I looking so plump? Okay, right, go ahead. Go ahead.
Right. So you can see that there's a lot more features over here. Really, really a lot more. Simple as process manager. I can kill any EDR running here. It's not an issue for me. You can serve other malwares.
DDoS, ransomware, yep. Password recovery, yep. Great. So guys, so this is just a quick demo for you to see how much of control that a hacker gets by you just clicking on something as simple as a Word document. Thanks, Ganesh. Thanks a lot.
No worries.
Right, so you're back with me, guys. Right, so what you have actually seen in this session is understanding the firmware threats, the firmware malwares and how they work, the the attacks that are happening all over the world as we are talking, the importance of a firmware security is clearly demonstrated, right? And I've given you an action item, what you need to do, or actually what you need to put in place to make sure that your organization, your enterprise, and your devices are not compromised by a firmware malware. Thank you, friends. See you next in the panel discussion. Thanks. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have questions, drop in, reach out to Cybertronium, reach out to me via LinkedIn, and we can talk and we can assist you through this process. Thank you, guys.